welcome to 1 Million Cuts. The first slide is thanking sponsors. Did I do that?
Yeah.
Or did you do that?
You did it.
Okay. This is the organizers. You got Lowell, Doug, Alicia? Is she?
She has stepped away.
That's what I thought.
Michelle is the new SMB representative.
That's what confused me for a minute. Man, we are really together this morning. Really organized this morning. As we talk about the organizers. And of course myself, and then Shelly, Lowell. Where's Johnny? Johnny's over here.
I hear you trashing another bank again.
I didn't trash the other bank. We're friendly. We're friendly. Good Lord. Please. I was just telling her I'm struggling to wake up this morning. Good God. I hit the button and it's not going. We've got sponsors. Granny Schaefer's did cost.
Yeah.
Just a side note, if you don't have your picture up there, then I need your picture. So I
sent it to you.
You did?
Saw that. I said that last night. Well, anyways, we'll get organized eventually. I'm just going to introduce Doug Hunt and get rid of this microphone. He has talked about a new remote worker position or program. Good gosh, y'all. Program with the chamber.
I'm done talking.
I am out.
Round of applause for the entertainment. Well, good morning, everybody. I'm going to speak loud. I think I can get picked up on that, so I don't have to look like a bad Garth Brooks. So my name is Doug Hunt. I'm Director of Entrepreneurship with the Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'm passionate about helping small businesses, entrepreneurs, and would-be entrepreneurs discover all of the resources that we have at the Chamber and getting them on the path to success. So what I'm here to talk to you today is about a new program that we're launching at the Joplin Chamber that is called, we don't have a name for it yet, but it's all centered around remote workers. And actually it has a regional reach to it. It's brand new. So Lori, be watching out. I'm going to be in contact with you and all the other chambers. What's interesting about the backstory on this is that in fourth quarter of 22, just a few months ago, I had a member of the Joseph Newman Innovation Center reach out to me and ask, do we have anything in place for people that are remote workers that have moved in from other areas? And I said, no, we don't. And so the idea was, what if we got an organization together that had people that could collaborate and come together, even though they're working for different companies? And I love the idea. Well, we were coming up on the holidays, and it was, December is not a good time to be launching a new chamber program. So about the week I got back from vacation in January, I had another individual who I know locally, Lori Smith, Wells Fargo Advisors. Do you guys know her? You know who I'm talking about? Okay. Well, she reached out to me, and her daughter was moving back from California, still working with the same company in salary, but moving back here to establish roots because suddenly they're, can move. And so if any of you came to an event that we had with, what's the company? Rachel, the two ladies that started their own company out of Leggett Flat. You know what I'm talking about? LifeWork Talent. When LifeWork Talent came and gave their presentation, they talked about how 40% of the workforce had changed careers, not jobs, careers, because of the pandemic. So you had surgeons becoming HVAC reps. You had, just the wide swifts and changes. And then also what happened during all of that, as you know, is you had companies that were in major corporations or offices, and you may have an accounting firm that had 10,000 square feet or an entire floor in an office building in downtown Dallas or LA, and all of a sudden they would say, you know what, we're going to remote work now, and then they would have the epiphany that they don't have to spend, $17,000 a month in rent. So that just compounded rapidly, right? So now you have a company or a family of four living in a 1,500 square foot home, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage in Anaheim, California, where the home is appraised at $1.9 million, and they have an hour commute. And now they can work remotely, and they think, what the hell are we doing? Why don't we sell this and move to the middle of the country? And now we can live in a $500,000 house that's 3 times what we had, and our dollar bill is now going to be worth $2 from what we're used to. Let me tell you something, that is happening. But we don't have a dashboard or a metrics in place to measure that, because it's like, if you think about when the gold rush started, it wasn't being called the gold rush. Nobody had anything in place to measure it. It was just happening. And so I feel that that's happening. And you know how once in a while in life, or you're running a business, and you'll think about starting something, and then all of a sudden you get confirmation, and it's one of those confirmations where you get goosebumps? You ever experience that? Well, that happened to me on this. So in my mind, I'm like, yeah, Carol, we'll get together, we'll talk about this remote working and starting a group, because I see something there. Then when Lori reached out to me, knowing that the two of them had not talked, it was like, okay, there's something to this. So I knew that I had to get a group together and start talking about what we could have. And the idea is maybe have a group that's similar to YPN, Young Professionals Network, but it's specific to remote workers. Now, when we read Entrepreneur Magazine, business magazines, and so forth, we know that a corporation, go back to that scenario where they've got a 10,000 square foot office that they gave up, and everybody can remote work now. What the companies and corporations were doing were saying, hey, in addition to your salary, we're going to give you a stipend of $1,500 for you to convert your third bedroom into an actual office. Like that's become standard. So while I'm reading that, I'm thinking to myself, well, why can't we chambers reach out to those companies that if this worker that's in Anaheim, California, that's still working for XYZ Inc., moves to Neosho, Joplin, Carthage, Springfield, wherever USA, why wouldn't that company want to buy them a membership in their local chamber so that they can network locally? Now here's a caveat to that. Talking about business and business magazines and all of that, in addition to that, if you read an article from about a year ago in Psychology Today, people that are in a working environment, suddenly they're cocooned in their house and the computer, that's not healthy. It's not healthy.
Sorry, it's just funny. It's true.
Example A.
Love my computer, man. Yeah.
We are designed to do this, you guys. You know? Eyeball. We can chat and Zoom and all that, but if we're talking about business, you know where the magic happens? It's that. It's that. So in my mind, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, it's kind of like if you see business opportunity, you see dots, and it's like this dot, and you're like, okay, those dots need to get together. So remember the story about the confirmation, the second one? Okay, the third one happened Saturday. The Wall Street Journal, after doing some research extensively, posted an article that said Southwest Missouri was the #1 area in the United States for remote workers to migrate to. #1 on that list is Springfield, Missouri. #2 is Joplin, Missouri.
Awesome.
So I had a hard time not thinking about work over the weekend. Beyond the Chiefs. So that's where we're at. And we're launching this. So here's what, and at first, honestly, I'm just being brutally honest, we didn't have a speaker today for 1 Million Cups. And we'll talk about that later. 1 Million Cups Joplin is kind of at a turning point. So there needs to be some commitment and heart. But beyond that, I thought, well, yeah, I could speak, but then at first I thought, God, it's just like the chamber promoting itself. No, I don't feel that way now. Because now we're going to go to the heart of what 1 Million Cups is, and that is, I need your help. And the help is this. We've got to get the word out. #1, from being a good human, that if somebody's moved here from wherever USA because the cost of living, and they've read everything, and they've taken that leap of faith, and they haven't come out and networked with us, and come to an after hours, or a chamber event, and felt the love, how do we reach them? How do we get them out of their house? How do we get them plugged into something? And how do we make these people that are coming here to better their families and their portfolio and do the best that they can? We have an opportunity to grab them and love on them, get them acclimated into Southwest Missouri so that they're going to tell their friends that they need to move here too. So here's the deal. And I may need to change the venue because right now I've got 5 people committed for our very first meeting that is tomorrow night at 5 o'clock, currently scheduled at the Joseph Newman Innovation Center, one of the conference rooms. When the article came out on the Wall Street Journal and we had our chamber staff meeting and I mentioned it, granted that was received warmly. And of course, Travis loves the idea. And so the chamber is now embarking on a marketing campaign and a community relations push to really push this out here. Here's the beautiful thing about it. Whatever the metrics is that Wall Street Journal used, it's just like looking at incorporated areas. Springfield's number 1, Joplin's number 2, right? And most of the other cities are in Missouri. But it goes back to this regional effort. Just because Joplin is mentioned doesn't mean that it's not ripe, and exactly the same thing for Carl Junction, Neosho, Monette. I mean, this is the place to be. And beyond that, even on our e-commerce meetups, we know that this is great logistically, this area within a 100-mile radius of literally where we sit, because you can guarantee 48-hour delivery on shipping. No other geographic location can do that. So these are the things that we can celebrate and champion. One is we know we're a loving community. We know we've got diversity in this community and we all love each other. You know, there's a few of us that can relate back to that when it was raw right after the tornado. So the challenge is when somebody moves here and they're doing it for financial reasons, let's do what we can for them so that 6 months from now they can say, my God, that was the best decision I ever made. And it wasn't just because of financial. But here's the challenge. How do we reach those remote workers that are here? Like, I'm at 1 million cups now asking that. And as much as I've been in business and done analytics and all that, this one stumps the you-know-what out of me. How do we reach them? So if you got time, let's just talk about that. And you are welcome to come to the first organizing meeting. We'll come up with a name and we're going to decide what we're going to do next. And when Travis Stevens, our chamber president, when we were talking about it, it's like, we don't want it to be just like, oh, recruit them into the chamber. We want this group to have almost like its own identity and, but be, of course, part of the chamber. But what remote workers are dealing with, they can talk to each other and relate to about what it's like to have a boss that's 1,000 miles away or those types of dynamics. So we want to get them together so they can support one another. So, and I'll end that with this story. Maybe the very first precursor to all of this was a year ago. And all of you know the story of our ecosystem, like the Joseph Newman Innovation Center and new businesses moving in and so forth. And a lady reached out to me and she said, I need some office space. And 2 years ago, her husband had passed away. They owned a company and I think they lived in North Michigan. And that was where he was from. He passed away and she didn't like winter, hard winter. So she and I hit it off. And so she decided to move to the center part of the country, primarily because what she does is manage like 120 major apartment complexes. So she doesn't manage them day to day, but she's over all the property managers. So she's like on Zoom constantly, going over numbers and all that, right? Well, they sold their house, after he passed away, they sold the house in Michigan, and very humble, she's a humble lady, but they had done very well for themselves. And the house that they sold looked like it could have been in a movie script, and just a heart of gold. And so she decided to buy a farm with about 25 acres, right over here close to the border of Kansas. And to her shock and horror, there was no high-speed internet, which that goes back to rural broadband and all of that. And so she actually rented a space at the Joseph Newman Innovation Center, but she moved here because she's now a remote worker. And she made the decision to move here because central location, her kids are old enough now, they've got their own lives, they're on both coasts, she's got grandbabies, and she's like, she's telling me, oh, it's the best place in the world, I'm 2 hours from Kansas City, I'd be in Dallas in 5 hours, I've got airport resources, not just out of Joplin, XNA, Tulsa, Springfield. Like this is like a little bit of heaven. And so she figured that on her own. And so we're gonna reach out to her too, to see if she wants to be part of this. But I feel like this is something that, I feel like this is like a two-sided coin. One, we need to put our heart in this and love on people that are new in our area. That's just a given. The second thing we need to do is make this available to them to help them where they are. And then the third part of this, yes, it's a three-sided coin. The third part of this is marketing our area. Because now we can say, we're not just saying it, it's the Wall Street Journal. And kudos to Springfield too. That's awesome. And what Rachel Anderson's doing over with the E-Factory, which is like a giant version of what the Joseph Newman Innovation Center is, that's powerful. So I need your help, 1 Million Cups family, to think this through. Be on the lookout for remote workers that you're aware of. Think about how we can reach out to them, whether it's through Ozark Gateway Realtors, have them be really asking some questions and see what we can come up with as a resource group for remote workers. So with that, I'll turn it over to questions. Yes, sir.
I got 486 thoughts, but I'll keep it to 3.
Okay.
But first of all, I think that one of the keys to this is there's, as you know, probably with the e-commerce meeting, is that there's some pretty good sized companies here in town already that are based here that have remote workers. So, Font Awesome, people don't even know that Font Awesome is like most of the websites you see on the internet comes from fonts that they created right here in Joplin, and they've got remote workers in Arkansas, and my best friend lives in Seattle, works for them also. So they might be a good resource. And I've been trying to figure out a way to bring those guys. By the way, they graduated from Carl Junction High School. So, and they went off to some of them MIT and Harvard and all this stuff. And then they came back together. And one of them lives in Arkansas, and one of them here, and then one in Seattle. But they've been doing it for a couple of years. And they've been very successful. Seeing not only how they interact with those people, but the tools that they use. Some of the people that were in Builders and Backers saw that the tool that they used that was very important, which was Slack, the program Slack, to be able to communicate through that, because there's lots of different channels. Anyway, I'll tell you about it later if you want to know more about that. But anyway, and then also, in 2016, I was working for a remote company back then. This company was based in LA, had an office right there on Melrose, but not everybody, they haven't had 10 or 15 people that worked in the office there. They were all like 25 years old, of course. But the guy that got me the job there was based in Granby, and he needed a couple of workers, and we worked in his office at his house. But we literally were communicating with and in meetings with people in LA every day. It wasn't even weird. it was like the office was next door. So I think another component is gonna be like what the Josephine Innovation Center is, for having, collaborative environment, having a place to where all these people can have, even if it's just to come in for a few hours like the lady that bought the farm, having an office environment to where you can still collaborate in a sense of,
Human.
just,
In person,
yeah, just like that group in that, just, it's that vibe. And so, it was a little bit weird to be communicating with people that had an office on Melrose, while we're sitting on a farm in Granby. But it was, it didn't feel disconnected.
right.
And so that was back in 2016. So that became a thing before it needed to be a thing.
Right.
And then, so those two components is trying to figure out a way to not just bring them in to socially network, but also to be able to utilize each other's skills in an office environment that they don't have to come to, they choose to. That makes a better office when you got people that want to be there, so they're like, I gotta go to the office. They're like, I need to go to the office. So,
Jake, that's a good point, and I love that, because having the employers have their input in that is the other part of this that's important. And if we just think big and brainstorm, if we bring this group together and it's focused on the remote workers, but we also have some major players here that have remote workers, why can't they establish some protocol that becomes commonplace that everybody else could adapt? Like, we can be pioneers in all of this. Now, I will tell you, I know that there's some organizations out there that are just like the Remote Workers Association of America. And, you can get online and they've got curriculum and it's just standard stuff. If somebody said, let's start an association, but this is gonna be more hands-on, that type of thing. And so having them at the table is gonna be important.
well, and trying to figure out a way to, and I don't have an answer for this. This is where other, people can input this, but you do need to figure out a way to have that be a benefit for them. Because it's not like they're anti-chambers or they're anti-social or they're anti-networking. It's the fact that their business connections aren't in Joppa. Their business connections are all over the world. So they just don't really feel like they have a need. And they may not have the need, but we need them. And sometimes that's a need, is to be needed. And so, trying to figure out a way that would benefit them. And I don't know what that is, but I don't want to just be like, hey, we need your help, come over here and fix this program for us, trying to figure out a way that it benefits them as well. But
Love it. Sounds like great dialogue for our meetings. You and then Gina will be after you.
Thanks. So, in my opinion, I think some of the best ideas are stolen. And I would imagine,
nothing new under the sun.
I would imagine that you have kind of looked around the area, like in Springfield or other markets, to see if something like this was already in place that you can kind of, I don't know, rob some ideas from.
I have not.
Okay, that's what I would do. I would just say, who's doing this already, so I don't have to reinvent the wheel.
So you're volunteering for the committee?
If you need help, sure. So the second thing is, you mentioned OGAR, but I think it would be more effective if you went directly to the brokers at the agencies like Keller, Pro, and just said, hey, I've got this thing, can I share it with your teams?
That's brilliant.
Because they will do that. They want to help their clients. And if that's going to be another feather in their cap to offer, they're going to do it. Mortgage lenders as well.
I
we've
love
seen
that
them come
idea.
in. We've seen them come in. Yeah, we've seen them come in, and
So I'm gonna piggyback off that real quick.
Do you mind though? She had her hand up. I want
Not
her.
at all, not at all.
Are you sure? Okay, Gina?
So my thought is that, I don't know if people are gonna come outside their work environments, like for more work. I think the aspect that's gonna draw people into it is like a social,
Yeah.
interaction.
It's
less
kind of the
of a
water
work.
cooler of the remote worker.
Yes, and I think it
Right.
needs to have I have a lot of thoughts, but I'm gonna keep it very minimal. But I think you really need to prioritize what you want your goals of this organization to be. Because I know, I mean, I have, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law both work from home in Carthage. They moved back from Kansas City to Carthage and they both work from home. They're not coming to a chamber event to do more work necessarily. They might come if it's a social interaction. They might come if you have it at the place where you throw axes over here and get people together, sort of hook people that way. But they're not coming somewhere to just sort
Network.
of stand around and talk to people like we do at business after hours.
And that's why I thought maybe more of a YPN feel, because all the chambers provide like livability, workability, lifestyle, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's important. Cherry, I'll be right back with you. Yes?
I wasn't really like it.
Piggybacking off what Sean said, some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm actually an agent at Keller. And this is something that a few of us have actually talked about, because a lot of us, like myself, have had referrals throughout the year for remote workers and people coming here. And in fact, I was just talking to Austin about, we're having a massive influx of people coming from Arkansas into Neosho because of what they're doing. Because of remote, the highway. If we can be the bridge to do what you were saying, I don't know your name. Gina? Okay. What you're saying is there has to be a reason for these people to go that isn't business related. And oftentimes, especially with the younger generation, we're not gonna go to these events if we don't know at least half a dozen people. So if we, the agents and the lenders and the insurance, can go in and be that bridge, and be like, hey, we're going to Axco and we're gonna have the first rounds on us, we're gonna just hang out and make it feel that way. I think that's a great idea.
Love it. Love it. Hands are going up everywhere. Charity, you were.
I actually didn't have my hand up.
Oh, sorry.
We're on the flip side of that. As a business owner, I mean, we've been marketing for remote workers, and we've offered that very thing to like pay for a chamber membership anywhere that AMPM is. We can hire someone, and so I love the idea.
Yeah.
But I didn't have my hand up.
So existing businesses.
But
yeah.
we also are seeing the
We,
influx
as a
that
small
he's
business
talking
owner,
about.
just started down that road and we're recruiting, a team of remote workers. And, we're open to having them be in Arizona. I went on a recruiting trip, I went and saw my dad, but I also researched about the area, looked at the chamber. I stopped off at a couple businesses. So, we're in a transition period, so we'd love to, be a part of this.
I love it.
So that's what we're seeing, like, for example, I think sometimes it is hard as a chamber, if the people, they live in Neosho, that they may work in Northwest Arkansas or Joplin, so their business isn't involved in the chamber, so we don't know. An event like First Friday Wine Share, that is, not a chamber sponsored, we actually, we push it out, help, but it's more of a collaborative of people downtown. So at those events, that's where I'm meeting these people because they are, and that's like what Gina said, they're not looking for work relationships. They're working for relationships that help them be part of the community so that they can form their next friendships. And all of that benefits our community. Then you have buy-in when there's a school bond. Those people they're learning about the community. They're supporting those local businesses. So there's definitely a strong benefit to somehow engaging them in what the chamber does and tying them into the community. But other than in Neosho, the same, without high-speed internet, I mean, that's where we're getting calls, like my friend, Kathy Dickens.
Yeah.
Her son moved back from Chicago, has the same job, and I haven't even talked to her lately, but we found him an empty office space that he could get high-speed internet in Neosho until he decided if he's gonna stay here or if he's gonna look in Northwest Arkansas. And so, if we can capture them, if we can make that experience not just, well, they get good internet so they can do their work, how can they do their life here?
Yeah.
So I love it, and I think it's a huge, and I think the realtors is gonna be, the realtors, the schools, the teachers that are dealing with new kids, that are coming into the district, where are they coming from? That's because that's the information we don't have. Like, I don't know who bought all these super metro homes in Neosho, like, are they working here? I don't know where we get that exact data, but that's been a conversation. We don't know who's moved here and why, other than we happen to meet them and they've sold everything, they've moved here, they love it. Nikki, that works for us, our new administrative assistant, moved from Utah.
Yeah, it's
They
happening.
drove out here, they just drove and found this beautiful lush know, I mean, and we forget when we're here,
Right,
what they're seeing when they come here.
yeah. Bo?
Well, I think everybody's kind of getting on the right track, is, like I said, the people that I know that are remote, you know, they're working with companies in other places, they have no clue or no real interest in, quote, networking with other businesses to try to get business and that kind of thing. So I think that the key is having meetings where they can meet with like-minded, similar people that are in that situation, because you said it in the beginning, sitting at a desk all day in your back room, and, getting out and meeting with people that are like-minded, that are also doing that kind of thing. I think that that's what we're talking about, like people say throwing axes and stuff, the fun, the networking as far as just meeting people who are in similar situations. I think that's where it would take off,
Yeah.
not necessarily the networking for more business, because they don't need that.
Right. Yeah, just social interaction.
Exactly.
I'm presenting to the Welcome to Joplin Club at the end of this month. I'm not really sure how they find the people that they can, join their club, and I know that they don't solicit, because I was trying to have them hook up with some realtors that I know. They wouldn't do that, but if I could give them information while I'm there about this, I think that would be good, so that anybody that is coming in town in this capacity, they would be able to give them that information as well.
Thank you. Well, there's momentum. We see that there's momentum.
I'm
Yes.
fine now, it's okay, I'm fine.
No.
I think it's, in that group, you can't, we can say and talk and have all these ideas, but I think you have to have buy-in from the city and from all of these other organizations, because you can't organize
No.
axe throwing and blah, and all these things on your own, so, involving Lori at the Downtown Joplin Alliance and partnering with those events to attract those people, I think it's gonna be crucial to making that a success.
And that's an excellent point, and tomorrow night's the very first meeting. So if you think about it, let's go back a decade or two. At some point in time, there was the first meeting for a YPN. Believe it or not, there was a first meeting when somebody decided to, hey, let's start a Chamber of Commerce in Joplin, and we'll launch it next year in 1917. Everything is brand new. So we have an opportunity here that can have a huge impact, benefit people's lives, and help our area. And I'm excited about it. You guys are welcome to be part of it. Tomorrow night, 5 o'clock at the Joseph Newman Innovation Center. If we grow too big, we'll move it over to the chamber. Thank you all.
Lori, you got any